Alright, hello and welcome everyone. This is 5-Star General.
And I'm Lokgar, as always.
And we're here with Dawn of War 2 Daily, number 13.
Yeah, should be an exciting episode. Up first, we have Norni versus AlwayzLame. I believe we were planning this for last time, but we ended up doing the Dawn of War 2 radio a little bit, and didn't get around to it because we want to take questions at the end of the show as well. But we're bringing it to you right now. It's a Mech Boy versus Ravener Alpha match on Green Tooth Jungle.
Yeah, Norni as the mech boy in this. So we're both pause at 5 seconds, I believe.
Indeed.
Alright, so in 5, 4,
Have
3,
we
2...
have we seen the Ravener Alpha before?
I believe we've seen the Ravener Alpha quite a few times. Definitely, I think we've seen Edja play him. I know we've seen Aki play him before. I don't think we've seen the mech boy at all.
Mech Boy, okay. How about you give him a quick introduction to the Mech Boy before we get this on pause, though?
Alright, so the mech boy, if you're not familiar with him, is technically, I guess, a defensive hero for the orcs is what, Relic calls it, which basically means that he can build turrets like the Tech Marines, except like way worse, but they cost the same amount of money. No one knows why. Yeah, also, interestingly, though, he can teleport kind of like almost exactly like the Warp Spider XR, except the big difference between the Mech Boy and the Warp Spider XR, because the Mech Boy doesn't do nearly the amount of damage on, teleport and such, and then actually, like, 2 of his 3 weapon upgrades are geared towards, like, setups. So, like, literally, like, if you remember, like, the heavy weapons, like, suppression squad teams and stuff like that, the Mech Boy actually has an upgrade for that will actually give him a suppression weapon just like that, the Def Gun, and then he's got the Beamy Def Gun, which is literally just like a Beamy Luda in Mech Boy form. So he's got all of that going for him in that way, and yeah, so it's a little different that way. And then Daka is his kind of weapon upgrade that gets him more DPS, but again, it's not, even when he has regular damage per second, like non-setup stuff, it's not the bursty kind of stuff that the Warp Spider XR does, so you tend to not see the mech be nearly as effective of a ranged teleporting commander in that way. He's still effective in his own right. And yeah, again, he has repair, so because he is that kind of defensive hero set up. And then what else is there to add, really?
I think that is it. I think the Warp Spider XR's teleport costs a little bit less too, as of now, but I believe in the next patch they're going to bring him back up.
They're not touching his teleport energy cost. They are touching a couple of other things, though, so...
Alright, well, my bad.
They're touching that for the regular Warp Spiders, is what that is.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I think now we're ready to go after that countdown. Sorry for interrupting that.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. There was a valid reason interrupted. So now we're going to start to get going, because we really got to get going. We've got 2 games here. They're both like 30 minutes in length. They're both really great games, so let's go ahead and get them moving. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And right off the bat, AlwayzLame will tunnel right to his natural power node. This is a tactic a lot of Ravener Alpha players do. We've seen them on the stream. That tunnel allows him to get reinforcements from his base to his teleport power node really quickly, allowing him to really play defensively and from anywhere in the map, really, any tunnel. So he could be offensive and then come back to defend his generators in a split second if he chooses to.
Yeah, your mic's up a little high right now, by the way, or it's coming through like blistering for me. I don't know why it just turned up. Anyway, what's really interesting here that Norni is doing is that he actually is teleporting here. He's actually going for like a tunnel harass with his mech boy here. He's taking this building, he's taking command, and you're going to see he's actually going to get out and just attack the tunnel. He's literally going to do this the whole game. He's going to use his mech boy and other forces to just like deny tunnels to AlwayzLame and just be a major pain in the rear area with this kind of play. Because tunnels are sort of an economic thing for the Ravener Alpha. And wow, your mic is getting incredibly loud now. I'm not sure what is up with that.
Incredibly loud?
Yeah.
Hold up, let me look into it. My bad.
Yeah, it's like variable, its volume output is like varying.
Yeah, hold up. Let me mute and try to figure this out while you continue.
Alrighty. So, anyway, in the meantime, we have, again, the mech boy got that tunnel down, so he's going to keep harassing the Ravener Alpha. He can't take him in straight-up range combat. The mech, actually, as you can kind of see here, has like something that's only a little bit better than a basic shoot-up for range combat, so he's really going to rely on this civilian structure here. His health is not very health pool is not very large or anything. But anyway, so we do see the Norni is taking 2 power nodes here. He's got this bottom one, and he's got this one. He's actually putting a generator on the top one up here. And apparently people see the iCup logo instead of the game. Good gosh, that is bad. Alrighty, so now hopefully you guys see the game. Should we just restart that? That is impressive. I could have sworn I had the game up. My apologies, guys.
Yeah, if we reset it, like, give me a second to figure out.
Alright, your mic sounded better too. Yeah, so alright, we're going to go restart this. Rather than show the iCup logo.
Okay, so wait, is my mic fine now, or?
Yeah, that's much better.
That's strange. I honestly did not change anything. I just made sure it was plugged in, which it was.
I don't know. That's weird. Alright, so I'm going to load back in, and we'll stop at the usual 5 seconds, sorry.
Alright.
Overlay awesomeness.
Alright, I'm reloaded in.
At 5 seconds, alrighty.
Yes.
Same here, so we'll just go really, really quickly then again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I do like Norni's very aggressive play with the mech boy. You see that a lot with mech players. They're going to try to bum rush your power and harass you, especially on this map with that building there. The mech boy can just sit in the building and take pot shots and whatever's capping or running by and kill the tunnel, basically. Mech boy ends up being a very good tunnel hunter because he can teleport around and counter the tunnels.
But yeah, this is something actually a lot of players won't even think of to go ahead and target these tunnels. Because I think it's one of those things that, you know, unless you play Ravener Alpha, you play as Ravener Alpha, you play against him a lot, but you don't recognize these tunnels do cost 80 energy to put up, and the cooldown on putting them up is actually quite long. So by forcing the Ravener Alpha #1 to constantly commit to putting turrets up, tunnels up, as opposed to allowing him to just put 1 or 2, a little amount, right? You know, to just get his tunnels up, be happy with those tunnels, and just leave them there the rest of the game. By harassing these tunnels the way that Norni is doing, and as you can see there, he actually is going to go ahead and take this one out now. This now forces AlwayzLame to constantly produce tunnels, constantly use the cooldown on that, make sure that it's all, you can't use it offensively and, you know, to just throw away tunnels, right? We saw, okay, I don't think we saw, but in the GRS there were, I think Aki was using tunnels in such a way, which, you know, at times could be useful, and at times was useful, but, you know, that option isn't even there for AlwayzLame the more that these integral map control tunnels get destroyed. And anyway, also, as mentioned, the energy cost is like 80 energy, so...
Also, each tunnel destroyed gives both players a little bit of global resource. I believe the destroying player gets more, so hunting down tunnels can be a very effective strategy for orcs to be able to use their abilities as often as they'll like.
Your mic is doing it again. I don't know what it is. Like, the more you talk, like, the louder it gets.
This is massively strange. Yeah, I guess I'll let you do solo for the minute. I'm gonna go mess around with the levels and hopefully...
look in Skype. There's an option that says something to the effect of, like, variable volume or whatever.
Alright.
Turn that off, like, crazy often. Like, it really screws stuff up badly.
Alright, sounds good.
Anyway, though, so we did have Norni, though, in the top corner here. He was trying to go ahead and capture this point, ran into some Termagants. Not sure if he didn't micro correctly or what. Managed to go ahead and lose this mech boy. And, unfortunately, an unfortunate situation for him there. And that's going to put him a little bit behind here. And we can see that he's only going with 1 Slugga and 2 Shootas. And, well, he is combating a Hormigant and 2 Shootas. 2 Termagants. What's coming up here is that Warrior Brute is coming out, Norni doesn't have his mech boy. He's hunting down the tunnels as best he can. The Ravener Alpha's putting up, so he's trying to contain this map control that AlwayzLame would otherwise have on this map. It's one of those maps where if you're able to get the tunnels out there, it can be very tough for your opponent to deal with. Now we see this Ravener Alpha here is attacking. We also see this is kind of nice here what Norni does. He does get the Shoota Knob upgrade on one of his Shoota squads. The reason for this is that the Ravener Alpha, oh, by the way, the Ravener Alpha may not get out. The Ravener Alpha does not get out. But the reason for the Shoota Knob upgrade is that the Ravener Alpha actually has some abilities. Specifically, he can upgrade a War Gear to Burrow, and he can also upgrade a War Gear to lay down Burrow traps, which are effectively mines. Both of those abilities will basically make sure that you want detection. So the Shoota Knob upgrade for Norni here is kind of a preemptive measure. I guess he figures because he has so relatively few forces, he can't allow for a Burrow trap, I should say, to go off and just all of a sudden decimate one squad. So we see that he's preemptively taken action against that. And we see that both players have revived their heroes by this point. But nonetheless, though, the stronger standing army is AlwayzLame's right now, as he has that Warrior Brute out. We're seeing the upgrade of that to a Barbed Strangler. We are seeing that economically, AlwayzLame is in a little bit better of a spot here. He got some generators up pretty quickly. We saw that Norni got up rather quickly as well. But he's kind of been splitting his generators between these two farms, seeming to hedge his bets in terms of what he can defend. Now this, I'm liking what's going to come up here, because we're seeing that he's going to follow this Ravener Alpha back in the base of these Shoota squads. And now look at the positioning of these tunnels. You're actually going to see this Ravener Alpha is not going to be able to stand up to this Daka. He can't stand up to the firepower. He retreats. Now what does Norni do? He doesn't fall back. He doesn't fall away. He sees that the turrets here, the Tyranid turrets, are so far back that he can actually snipe these tunnels. He snipes the base tunnels for the Ravener Alpha. That's actually a very big snipe, because those base tunnels are what the Ravener Alpha relies on to get around the map to make other tunnels useful. Those tunnels have to be up and operating. And so we see there that those are taken out by Norni's big Shootas. Very nice presence of mind to go ahead in there and do that. That in the long term denies a lot of map control, but the issue that he's facing here, though, he's losing generators. He's trying to keep them up. I believe this is a bad choice. Personally, if he wanted to go tier 2, I felt like that was a bad choice to go ahead and put that generator up. You do need to come into tier 2 with power, and this is where we're seeing, again, Norni's force composition here in tier 1. He's kind of backed off of going full out with anything. He's not fighting force with force. He's allowing, despite his harass on the tunnels and stuff, he's not able to take this ranged blob straight up. He doesn't have Storm Boys to get in here and deal with this Warrior Brute. We're seeing that because of this, Norni's at like 180 something power right now, and he can't go to tier 2. And that's a bit of an issue for him, because AlwayzLame is going to get to tier 2. Now, it's not too big of an issue, because as far as Orcs and Tyranids go, there's nothing in Tyranid tier 2 that Orc tier 1 cannot counter. It's just not a place where you want to be, where you're being held back because of requisition, though, because typically your best counter to all things Tyranid tier 2 is Storm Boys, and they're quite a bit of requisition at 400. So Norni's not in a great spot here. He does have quite a bit of power. Again, that's why I'm kind of not sure why he decided to go ahead and put another generator up when he could have maybe eked by to tier 2, because that does seem to be what he wants to do here. So I'm not sure. We're going to watch and see what he does.
5-star is, hey. I looked for the setting, I saw what might have been it, and it was already unchecked, and I don't know if the mic is still...
Yeah, it's still like peaking and stuff. I'm not sure why it's...
I think I'll go into my sound card settings and play around with those. My apologies.
Okay, because like like you start talking, and then it'll start like raising the pitch, and then like everything in the background just starts like going up and up and up and up, and all of a sudden you're just like talking very, very, very loud.
Is that any better?
You have to speak like a sentence or something.
The Ravener Alpha is retreating right now on my screen.
Okay, that sounds better for now. I'll let you know if it gets worse again.
Alright, what timing are you at?
I am at 7:40.
Alright, let me play catch up real quick.
Alright, so I'll keep going with this then. We are seeing these sluggas coming around the back side, and they're going to go ahead and go in for this Gen Harasser. Now, there's going to be a bit of a mistake that we see Norni make here. This is something that a lot of players who've been playing, a lot of Orc players who've been playing for a while are prone to do, which is to use attack ground on these generator farms as opposed to switching to range mode. Attack Rowan at the moment is just kind of generally not as efficient as range mode targeting. I highly recommend just going range mode targeting on the generators if you can. Now, remember that the Burnas will do much more damage to the generators much faster than melee will, so you do want to use range, and that's why we're seeing Attack Round and range mode come into play here. But Attack Round a lot of times won't hit quite spot on. Sometimes, especially now, there's this thing where like the second Burna won't always get him range. Just all kinds of things that you can get around with range, and also, I don't believe the pistols fire when you're attack rounding. And not that they do a ton of damage, but they do enough damage, and it's kind of like, well, it would be nice to have that. So anyway,
at 7:40. What time are you at?
I am currently at 8:54.
All right, I'm gonna try playing catch up again.
Do you want me to just stop and wait, or?
Yes. Hang on. Pause. 1, 2, 3. Pause. All right. What time are?
I'm at 9:04.
9:04. I'll be there in a minute. Less than a minute actually.
All right. I'll talk a little bit about what's going on in the meantime then. So anyway, we've got finally Norni's teching.
And I'm here.
Oh well, there we go. All right.
So
So
9:04, right?
yeah, 9:04.
All right.
So 5. All right. Ready?
Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright, so we're at 9:04, we're ready, and we see that Norni is teching most of the way to Tier 2 right now, and he actually has so much power and so much requisition, he could go to Tier 3, like, straight up if he wanted to. So we're going to go ahead and see what he does when he gets there, because that's certainly an option. But in the meantime, though, AlwayzLame has been just playing kind of standard here. He's got his opening Barb Strangler, Warrior Brood was his big investment in Tier 1, outside of his, Gaunts. And then now he's got the Venom Brood. That's going to complement these dual Termagants here by giving them ranged Synapse. So he's in a very good position. When he gets an actual army and blobs up, he will be able to take Norni straight up.
Yeah. I'm. A Weird Boy is coming out for Norni. The Weird Boy would allow him to deal with the Gaunts a little bit easier. The Zap ability absolutely destroys the Gaunts of the Tyranid army. They will transfer it amongst each other very quickly, especially with the ranged units, because they'll tend to converge in the same cover location if you're not too careful about it. As well as the default Weird Boy attack just absolutely destroys Gaunts too, so I'm expecting wonderful play from Norni, from the Weird Boy.
By the way, it's still doing it, but I think we're just going to have to, cast through it, so...
How bad is it? Like, unbearably loud? Because if it is, I can just let you go solo.
No, it hurts my ears a little bit, but not much.
I sincerely apologize. I hope the stream isn't completely angry at me.
No one's really complaining about it in the stream. I think it's more one of those things that it's very painful for me, but I think if I can get through it, we may be all right. We'll see. I'll look at the VOD.
Here we see the Zap transfer Venom Brood. It did a little bit of damage to the Gaunts. It would have done more, I feel like, if it just kept transferring over and over. But Zap is very devastating against Gaunts when used in the right situation.
So meanwhile here, we do see that Norni is getting a Stormboy squad. So this is kind of one of those areas where I sort of question Norni's build here. He's getting this Stormboy squad, which is available in Tier 1. Now, granted, it's perfectly fine to get Tier 2 units, Tier 1 units in Tier 2. But what Norni has done here is he's done that, but, he hasn't... I guess I don't see a reason why a Stormboy wouldn't have been useful in Tier 1. And it basically seems like his build didn't really take that into account. He easily could have gotten a Stormboy out in Tier 1, could have improved his map control with that. He would have actually been able to take AlwayzLame's Tier 1 blob straight up had he had that Stormboy, and then he would have been able to transition much smoother into the Weird Boy.
If we look at Norni's red reserves, I do want to point out that he has both players are well into the 400s of their red resource. Norni just went down a little bit. He used an ability, but for an orc, I feel like it's sort of uncommon to ever have that much red pulled up, and we see on the mini-map that AlwayzLame has no other tunnels other than the ones in his base and the one that's currently building. Norni's just been doing an amazing job of making sure those tunnels are out of the map And on a map like this, there are plenty of little hiding spots that a Ravener can hide, especially towards the top of the map, near those little walls of the ruins. Tunnels can be hidden there very easily, used to backcap your second powered node and second requisition point, and Norni's just been doing a good job of hunting down the tunnels.
Yeah, Norni has really been making a point of that. You know, we mentioned that earlier on in the broadcast, and we saw that Norni
the
had stuck with...
Carnifex. My bad. The Carnifex did just wipe out the 2 tunnels in AlwayzLame's base, which means this Ravener is going to have to rebuild a tunnel next to his base if he wants to use tunnels effectively.
Yeah, no, you've actually mentioned a couple times in past broadcasts about how like Ravener Alphas will put the tunnels in their base, like to the side or something, like over here or over here. I know you can't see it, but the people on the stream hopefully can. AlwayzLame just put them straight up, like right here. You can actually see the little like brownish parts here, this little brown rubble. That's where tunnels were. And
yeah, yeah, that's just is something that players are going to have to get used to doing, because I don't believe vehicles always crush them until rather recently, actually.
Yeah, I can't remember when exactly the change is made, but anyway, we do see that this Carnifex is going to be a Barbed Strangler Carnifex. So this is going to do just huge amounts of damage to basically everything Norni has, and it's also going to allow AlwayzLame to spawn Spore Mines, which, again, are just going to be a great way to allow him to control Norni's forces. So Norni's in a terrible position right here, but somehow, you know, we can see, I mean, I know you guys can't see, but this replay is not ending anytime soon. And we've selected it, so obviously this is not just like Norni getting stomped into the ground. Norni's going to do something here to stay in this game. But, you know, you can look. It doesn't look good for me. He's going tier 3. But he's got this Carnifex out here. He's trying to do stuff, and it's just trying to deal with that. But we see very nice power harass here. Go ahead.
Yeah, and AlwayzLame does have these requisition points under his control. The middles, unless my UI is completely messed up, which I don't think it is, the middles are under his control. The top 2 up top are fully matured for him. He's just, and he has a larger army, but with a larger upkeep. And yet he's pulling in more requisition than Norni. He's in a very good position to just basically solidify his lead and just keep it going from here.
Yeah, I mean, actually, if you look at his resources, AlwayzLame could very well be looking to get out a Swarm Lord. Now, this is what Norni is trying to prevent here. He's not suiciding these Storm Boys, and you can see, actually, he gets like 5 out of 6 out of them 5 out of 6 of the models out alive, including the Storm Boy Knob. So, you know, he does a pretty good job here of, like, not suiciding, and yet you can see that all of AlwayzLame's power, except for one node, is basically trashed from that.
Yeah, which is... I'm honestly surprised the Barbed Strangler Carnifex wasn't able to do more damage to the Storm Boys. I thought that was pretty interesting. He had the Carnifex chasing them for quite a while.
Yeah, he wasn't attacker on Micron, I don't believe, though, and or they may have just been at the edge of the Barbed Strangler's range. So you know you can't attacker on Micro is awesome when you talk about it,
especially when dealing with sergeants too, because knobs and such, they have increased health more so than the other models in the group.
But the Weird Boy's in huge trouble here. He's retreating a little late. This Ravener Alpha is trying to engage him in melee. Actually does get a very big melee hit off there, but he's only got 10 health. All this Ravener Alpha has to do is spit on him, literally, and he will die. He spits on him, and he dies.
That is a huge loss for Norni. He finally just got up to tier 3. He finally has enough to start pulling out the big guns, but the Weird Boy would have synergized so well with knobs, which would have given him the comeback he needs, I feel like.
Yeah. The Weird Boy is...
he has to reinvest in any of the upgrades he bought. I couldn't really check if he had how many upgrades he had.
He had quite a few on the Weird Boys, so I know he had at least Warpath, I believe, so that's pretty standard. So usually there's at least that, which is a decent power investment there. But yeah, so we see that he's training knobs, and you know, losing a Weird Boy and then trying to synergize with knobs is not as bad as like losing your Librarian when you have Terminators on the field. But it's still like one of those things where it's like, oh my gosh, it would be so much better with a Weird Boy. Holy Hammer certainly proved that.
Yeah, interesting side note, AlwayzLame had his Barbed Strangler Carnifex attack grounding the same location for quite a chunk of time. I thought that was pretty silly. But yeah, we see that AlwayzLame still has his lead on the the resources, the victory point count is 245 to 231, so the VP game is fairly close by. Very minimal tunnels still. Norni doing an excellent job of hunting them down.
Yeah.
And collecting that red resource. Both players have high pools of red resources. I'm honestly surprised that Norni isn't spamming, WoG whenever he can, just simply because he has the red to do it.
Well, he is getting knobs out, and knobs are one of the absolute biggest red sinks in the game. We see that he's going immediately here for Frenzy. He's going right in on this Barb Strangler Carnifex. He wants this thing dead. If he can kill that, he can completely make up for losing his Weird Boy. He can completely make up for losing his Mech Boy early on. He can completely make up for his economic situation. So he's going to go ahead and do all he can to try and take this out.
With the U-Jammers, the knobs are just the ideal counter for the Carnifex once they can get rid of the Spore Mines that may be spawned by the Carnifex.
Actually, they're just going to charge right through him. They're going to destroy the Spore Mines by just going kaplam on him.
And these Storm Boys still alive and kicking it. They are excellent counters to the Warrior Broods, both the Venom Brood and the Barb Strangler Warrior Brood. And the fact that Norni is able to keep this unit alive is just amazing. A lot of players overlook Storm Boys, I feel like, because they think that they're too fragile for the amount of damage they do.
No, Storm Boys are absolutely your best tier 1 unit against Tyranids. You've got, as orcs, you have basically like Storm Boys in tier 1, you have Weird Boy in tier 2, and then you've got like Commandos and Knobs in tier 3. And you can kind of go and say, you don't know which is better, but Commandos are certainly quite brutal.
A quick note on the AlwayzLame is
very nice dodge. The Tyrannoform dodge up in the top. Sorry, but the Swarmlord you were going to talk about, right?
Well, I was actually going to talk about the Mech's War Gear, but then I noticed the Swarmlord was coming out. The Mech's War Gear is suited to buff these knobs up amazingly. It has a battery pack, which it increases the Mech Boy's energy, first of all. And second of all, it allows him to...
oh, sorry. I didn't mean they actually just added that in Retribution. It used to be, it only just added... well, anyway, yeah, go ahead. But I just want to point it out that it is new for anyone who has been, following the Mech Boy and stuff going, wait a minute, that's not true. What are you talking about? Yeah, it is
also,
new Retribution.
A quick note that this Slugger Boy squad that's decapping the VP, the tunnels give out line of sight too, so AlwayzLame can just use attack ground micro to attack ground perfectly and hit the capping model. Anyway, but it grants the Avataste ability, which will allow the Mech Boy to heal the selected squad a little bit worse than the Apothecary, but a heal is a heal nonetheless. And then the Super Tough Beam, which allows the mech to target a squad and give them invulnerability for a certain period of time, for a short period of time, we see it deployed right now, attacking the Barb Strangler Carnifex, and now these knobs still have their frenzy for when they need to, for on either the retreat or just to continue chasing down the Carnifex and killing it.
I don't think it's full, well, actually, let's look at them. Yeah, it's not full invul, I don't think, but they have changed it around with Retribution. It used to be one of those, need damage to activate sort of thing. Like, you had to, have an overcharge, have a shield and, overcharge
that was the overcharge shield. The Super Tough Beam used to give out full invulnerability, but I guess they did change it to make it less damage. But nonetheless, it is a welcome thing in addition to knobs. It's just beefy tier 3 unit. That has a ton of HP and can deal a lot of damage, especially in conjunction with the Avataste heal.
Yeah, and also in conjunction with Frenzy. Basically, one of the other things, or one of the main things I should say that the Super Tough Beam does, is it prevents knobs from being knocked back. One of the changes to Frenzy recently is that knobs are now knocked back while under the effects of Frenzy. I mean, they can be knocked back while under the effects of Frenzy. That's probably the best way to control them while they're frenzied. Frenzy gives them invulnerability, increased melee damage, and immunity suppression. So being vulnerable to knockback is kind of like the counter of sorts to that. So being able to knock them, not being able to knock them back using Super Tough Beam means that it's like super frenzy now.
And we also see the towers really just hurting Norni, in that the Shooter Boys they normally would have been revealed in that location, but the tunnels did, so AlwayzLame knew to strike exactly. But the Carnifex does go down to the knobs. It's going to be a huge loss for AlwayzLame and possibly the turning point in this match. If Norni can use this momentum to try to take back the map, and he has been doing a pretty good job of decapping the requisition points that AlwayzLame has been holding on to.
Yeah, he has been doing a pretty good job here. He's competitive in this game. We are seeing, I believe, the victory points, by the way, are reversed. So I think Norni is actually, my bad, Norni is behind, I believe. But yeah, Norni is behind. No, I should think he may be ahead. But anyway, we also see that Norni's got now tank buses here to go ahead and try and deal with the Swarm Lord. The Swarm Lord is a super unit. It has 2,000 health. It's considered vehicle armor. So only like anti-vehicle weapons are going to damage. So these knobs are going to be capable of dealing with that. Tank buses are pretty good with it. The shooters will do almost nothing to it. The mech boy will do almost nothing to it. But we do see that the mech boy now has Daka. This is his higher damage per second weapon that allows him to not set up or anything. Just kind of improves his DPS. But again, it's not bursty like the Warp Spider XRs, as you can see. It's just kind of like a big shooter.
Yeah, and see, looks like Norni's committing a lot of resources to try to get this Swarm Lord down. Another Tyranno formation goes down. AlwayzLame using 2 in a single match. It's almost unheard of. And a Shooter Boy squad wiped out. Looks like the Slug Boys get wiped out. The other Shooter Boy squad is in a terrible position. Loses several models.
Yeah, we see that.
And here's the tunnel to try to deal with the rest of the shooters.
Yeah, unfortunately, Norni is just preoccupied by the battle in the north and just does not at all see that Tyrannoform come out until it's way too late.
Quick note, the Shooter Boy squad is level 4, which means they're really resilient to many forms of... or they're just really strong compared to what they usually would be. Usually Shooter Boy squads don't last to level 4, that's just... That pretty much shows how much Norni's been killing with them, basically.
Yeah, Norni has been doing a lot with a little this game, and I mean, just the amount that he has done with these knobs and the super tough beams and everything he's been able to put on them, and the Avataste and just all of that without a weird boy in this mix has been just ridiculous. The mere fact this game is close at all right now is just testament to Norni's micro of these few key units. But in the meantime, that he is getting out a looted tank, he's going to try and use that, I suppose, to counter the Swarm Lord. But we do have lictors, multiple lictors now, out on the field for AlwayzLame. These do have melee heavy, which is a damage type that does very good damage to vehicles. So if they can get up to those looted tanks, they'll be able to do quite a bit of damage to them. Meanwhile, these knobs are going to go ahead and try and deal with these warriors, try and deal with this top victory point if they can.
Also, lictors can do an assault leap and mess with vehicles' pathing, especially on this map, where vehicle pathing is also known to be a little bit buggy in some locations. Which would allow the Swarm Lord to get up nice and close, or the Venom Brood that's already out on the field.
Yeah, I was rather surprised, honestly, that Norni went for the eluded tank here. I would have just expected him, especially with how well he's kitted his mech and how well just straight up how well everything's been working for him. But, you know, then again, that we do see he's using the Mech Boys Global here. I forget the exact name of the ability. But basically, it increases the speed dramatically of all vehicles on the field, reduces their cooldown so they fire faster and basically do more damage. So when you see that little like blitzkrieg icon up there, lightning, I think something like that. Yeah,
I also forgot what it's called. Interesting, but this tank is in a lot of trouble. The Venom Brood is firing upon it, and it looks like it's running away with 135 HP, but the Swarm Lord is... Ooh, cancels the attack, never mind.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned earlier, he's actually got no slug. The slug has died, so there are no sluggers to repair this. His mech boy can repair the tank, but his mech boy has been caught up with these knobs. He's got to get the tank up to the mech boy somehow, and this is one of those very, very dangerous journeys. So Norni's going to try and do it, but you know,
especially with lictors lurking around in the jungle, you never know which way you can go before you meet one. It's a very risky maneuver to take it out of your base.
We're seeing that Norni is making a desperate stand here to try and hold these victory points. And we are seeing now another Knob squad is coming out. But now he's revealed the location of this tank. He's going to force off these Hormigons. But this still may not be enough. And we see actually still not going for repair there. These Knobs now are down to 2 out of 4 models. And they're being engaged by a Lictor. And Lictors, by the way, are going to be a great counter to these Knobs. They can flesh hook. They can just, you know, straight up go kind of pretty well with them one-to-one. You know, I mean, one Lictor against a whole squad of Knobs won't work out too well, but multiple Lictors against a squad of Knobs will. And I like what Norni's doing here, by the way. He doesn't he can't afford to retreat these knobs, so he's upgrading the knob leader.
Yeah, that will basically give them another model to stick around in the fight and deal with this threat. I do like that strategy, but the Luda tank does go down to a Lictor. He managed to get it out from that other previous engagement and saved it for a little bit, but now it's dead. And the VP game is getting really close, 118 to 28. I believe AlwayzLame is at 28. I don't know if my UI is a little bit bugged or not. And the mech boy is dead, so now the teleporting hero, which would be perfect for stealth capping, is gone.
Yeah, and so now we see here these new knobs are engaging the Swarm Lord, trying to take it out, but the Swarm Lord is using all of his abilities here. In fact, we're going to see one last ability go off, I believe, or maybe he used that before. I remember when I was watching this replay to prepare for this, he used it. Oh, I think it was against the Storm Boys, what it was against, my bad. He used this a little roar, I kill everything around me ability, and it killed many things. Norni is trying to deal with this capping here, but there just is no good way he can go about this with so few victory points.
I believe you mean AlwayzLame?
No, AlwayzLame is AlwayzLame. The victory, what do you call it? Reversed.
Yeah. Okay, that's always very confusing for me. My bad.
They're actually fixing that next patch, courtesy
Indeed.
of Harlequin.
I am so excited for that. I've actually noticed that bug since I think Chaos Rising. I tried making a fuss about it, but I don't think that really worked too well.
Well, you just need to change your name to Harlequin and it'll work.
Apparently so, but that is the game. Actually.
Indeed it is. By the way, no, Dawn of War 2 is not a PlayStation 2 game. Get out of here. Anyway.
It's actually a GameCube game.
Oh, totally. Yes, GameCube. Best.
Or Dreamcast, I'm sorry.
Yes, no, Dreamcast, best system ever. There we go. Except for the
superior
Genesis.
console.
Yes. Yeah, I had a Dreamcast until, they stopped making games for it, and then, I'm like, well, what one of these three pieces of crap am I going to get next? And I'm like, I guess I'll get a GameCube. Bad decision. Well, I mean, there were some good games on it, so never the worst decision to get a platform to get something that gives you video games, right? There's always something good in there, but I could have had better. I could have just focused on my PC, but I didn't do that until stupid 360 blew up. That was it. Like, I had been playing RTS games on PC for a while, and then Battlefield, and slowly crept more and more stuff in, and then I'm like, oh, I'll try this Xbox 360 thing. Oh, it blows up in 4 months. It literally explodes. I'm like, oh, alright, that's it. PC all the way.
Indeed. I think I can agree with that.
So, we're going to go ahead and take a short break here. Just a quick, commercial break, pretty much, actually.
We'll come back with another exciting replay, GiDDoLo versus blaqk on Liege's High Stratum.
Yeah, and this is a user submission, by the way.
I love getting those.
We always love getting user submissions, so... Anyway, we'll be right back. Alrighty, and we should be back now, so...
Indeed. At least I'm back. You are back. I think we're live.
Yeah, we are live. So, I am at 5 seconds. Are you at 5 seconds?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty, let's get this one underway. So, actually, I am now at... I completely screwed that up. I'm now at 7 seconds.
Alright, it's cool. We'll just continue. Keep it unpaused. So we see
Actually,
blaqk.
hold on. What are you at now? I paused it
I'm
at
at
7
14.
seconds.
I'm at 17 now.
Oh, alright.
Hey.
You're at 17, or I'll get up to 17. We'll
Alright.
sync up there.
Alright, sounds good to me.
We're not going to miss much in 17 seconds.
At 17 seconds, you might want to go to the Warp Spider Exarch to see fairy dust fly beneath him.
Oh, yay. Oh, you're right. I see it.
Isn't that pretty?
That's so pretty. Alright, so you can't get those kind of effects on consoles. Anyway.
StarCraft 2, I mean, what other race would have fairy dust?
Fairies. Alright, so let's go ahead and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 this thing, alright? So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so we've got GiDDoLo in the bottom, and we've got blaqk in the top. Blaqk as the Lord Commissar, and GiDDoLo as the War Spider Exarch. And go ahead, Lokgar.
We see GiDDoLo going for the straight up harass, as many War Spider Exarchs do, and we see just in cover how effective he is. The guardsman, he has all the models firing upon him, dealing little to no damage, although War Spider Exarch is able to kill almost half the members of the squad before they upgrade with the Sergeant and capture the power node. But now the Sentinel is going to help drive away the War Spider Exarch to buy some time for the guardsmen to go find something else to cap.
Very nice dodge, though, with the War Spider Exarch, though, by GiDDoLo. But yeah, he was actually in medium cover there, or light cover, I should say. You saw the little yellow marks next to his health bar.
Dictator.
That indicates, yeah.
Yep.
So we're going to see here the Sentinel is just going to try and go straight up with him. Sentinel's not having any cover. War Spider Exarch is. I don't believe Sentinels can really take cover anyway. So we're going to see finally. Yeah, there we go. Finally goes ahead, breaks the cover. That's a good move by blaqk, and now the cooldown is down out for the knockback, the ground pound stomp. And he's going to go ahead and just force off that War Spider Exarch here, which is quite nice. The only issue with all this, though, is that these guardsmen are getting forced off, and there's nothing really out right now to go ahead and repair this Sentinel for blaqk. So he's going to have to go ahead and use it and be very careful about using it.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to go engage these capturing Howling Banshees and just force them to try to stop capping the VP. And it looks like it's successful. He's able to delay the capture for a little bit of time.
And then the other side of things, we have the Lord Commissar trying to scare off some Guardians while he goes ahead and captures that left side VP.
This is interesting. A heavy weapons team coming up for blaqk. A lot of players, I feel like, go for the second guardsman and then a Catechin's Devil squad. A heavy weapons squad against the War Spider Exarch. As we're well aware, the heavy weapons squads, the suppression platforms have to set up, unless you're a Barb Strangler Warrior Brute, in which case you don't. But the War Spider Exarch can easily teleport into the heavy weapons team and force melee, tying them up instantly, unless they're in a building. So I'm very interested to see how useful this heavy weapons team is for blaqk.
Yeah, so we see actually he's going ahead here and putting down this multi-laser turret, and now he's going to set up the heavy weapons squad in an area where the multi-laser turret should be able to just go ahead and click on. Yep, the multi-laser turret can help out, as can the guardsmen, who are now upgraded with sergeants. So we see that this is part of some larger plan here for blaqk. We see that he's using his Sentinel, and he was using his hero as well to try and... He's got this middle victory point locked down. That's what this heavy weapons squad is here for. It's what this multi-laser turret is here for. His Sentinel now is decapturing the top. He's forcing GiDDoLo to... or basically preventing GiDDoLo, I suppose, from leveraging all three victory points. What GiDDoLo would love to do would be to have all three victory points like in play, right? To like always just kind of be there, that he can go around with his War Spider Exarch, and if blaqk pushes one victory point, he can go and capture the other victory point with his War Spider Exarch, because the War Spider Exarch can teleport all over the place just like that. But we see there that blaqk is going ahead here and just being like, nah dog, I got this middle victory point. Now we do see a nice job here, the Shuriken weapon cannon platform, forcing blaqk off from getting a nice power harass in, but you know, it was a nice thought though by blaqk to go ahead and try that. If he had gotten that in, that could have turned the game, well, completely in his favor.
And it looks like this heavy weapons team is actually just going to be content to sit in this building and guard the power generators, which is an acceptable use of the heavy weapons team. A lot of players sometimes try to be more proactive with them and try to get their money's worth out of them and then retreat back into a building when the pressure's on. And he could easily reset up the squad to cover the other victory point and basically deal with this Banshee and Guardian squad, because they would have to funnel through down to the staircase.
Yeah, we are seeing that he is moving around here. So I'm not sure if he's going here to repair... No, he's not going to go to repair the Sentinel. Maybe he will once they're set up, actually. Might be... Yep, that's what he intends to do. By the way, for anyone who does not know, it is very possible to go ahead and have a heavy weapons squad for the Imperial Guard. It's the only heavy weapons squad that I know of in the game that has a repair on it. Usually, like, that's relegated to your low-level units and stuff, like your sluggas, your guardians, your guardsmen also have repair. But heavy weapon squads also have repair, and they can do it while they're set up. So if you put a little bit of planning in, you can set up your heavy weapon squad, have them cover an approach, and repair your sentinel while you're at it.
Yeah, and I believe that's because they use the traditional guardsmen as their covering unit, or the replacement unit. And it looks like the Banshees are going to go down. The guardsmen
very, very low. There they go.
And yeah, that's going to be a huge loss for GiDDoLo. He just started up his tech up to tier 2, so he can't replace it immediately, even if he wanted to. He could just cancel the tech and do that, but already halfway into the tech, might as well just finish it off and then replace it later. But that's still going to cost him a little bit of map control if blaqk pushes it.
Yeah, and so meanwhile, we are seeing that the Warp Spider Exarch here is upgrading improved targeters. It's going to improve his damage against basically everything. It's a straight up damage boost, I should say. What it will probably really help him out on, and what he's probably really looking to it for, is in dealing with this Sentinel. The Sentinel is still alive. A lot of players are just like, oh my gosh, Sentinel should be dead within like 2-3 minutes of game start. blaqk has done a great job of keeping his alive. Honestly, it shouldn't be viewed that Sentinel should be dead so quickly. But anyway, it depends on your outlook on Sentinels, I suppose. But
also,
that's fine.
GiDDoLo has his first Guardian squad in the unit taskbar. He's just idling by the victory point, obviously trying to guard it. Now, a better thing to do would be to go decap that natural requisition of blaqk. All blaqk's forces are centered around the middle and then the other side of the map. And blaqk is slowly starting to take over more of the map on the right side. GiDDoLo can easily counter this by decapping blaqk's natural requisition point, as blaqk just did to him, actually.
And here we see that's one mistake. Here's the other big mistake that GiDDoLo is making here, coming right up. He's making a Bright Lance. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go down here, and actually, Lokgar, you want to pause in 5 seconds? Because
sure.
Just a very short pause. I just want to count the resources here. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. We don't usually do too many pauses in these kind of things, but we're going to go right now and add up the power expenditures of each player here, bearing in mind that GiDDoLo has both players have had their farms pretty consistently, right? So we look at their power farms, we see, all right, they've had them pretty consistently. GiDDoLo's had this other power node on the left side for much of the game, and until recently had this power node on the right side. GiDDoLo has had the superior power income most of this game, but what is he doing? He's getting to tier 2, and the first thing he does is he builds a Bright Lance. We see the blaqk is nowhere, he's not even halfway to tier 2, which means that even if we're at tier 2 right now, right? He'd still have to build something in tier 2. To actually build something in tier 2, now we're talking about, like, if it's a Chimeras like 40-second build times. Like, most of the vehicles that you can build in tier 2 have, like, very long build times, or relatively long build times, like 40 seconds or above generally. So this is no exception. So what is he building this Bright Lance to counter? I'm not sure. The one nice thing about Bright Lance, they only cost range of requisition, so they're relatively cheap in tier 2. Thing is, though, Eldar have lots of soft AV. Well, anti-vehicle, I should say there. So, there are multiple ways. You don't need a Bright Lance to deal with a Chimera, for example, right? Bright Lance is not the solution to everything here. He could have gotten a Warp Spider squad. He had Banshees, so I can see, all right, that's a bit of an issue. No more Banshees, bad. Okay. So maybe Warp Spider is not the best solution. But what about Wraithguard? What about Wraithguard, right, Lokgar? Against Imperial Guard, right?
Wraithguard would decimate Imperial Guard. The only thing he would have to watch out for is the Sentinel Stomp, but even that with 2 Guardians and a Warp Spider Exarch and a Shuriken, it can be easily, prevent that.
Yeah.
I would even say, why not just save up for a Falcon?
Exactly. Yeah, so you've got...
They do light AV damage. They would counter a Chimera perfectly, and they would deal with this force composition that blaqk has quite well.
Or we could also look at a Wraith Lord. Right, so like Wraith Lord, Falcon, Wraith Guard.
Another benefit, especially on this map, if we look in the middle, you can even use the arrows to highlight the destructible wall on blaqk's power farm. A vehicle can just crush those walls and then leave it open for gen harassment from every one of your other troops. So you can have Guardians set up shields and then, just decimate the generators with their ranged fire and then not take any with the shields. A fast vehicle would have solidified or He is in the lead VP wise, unless
Yeah.
the
Um,
UI.
yeah, he is in the lead VP wise right now because he has 1 point captured, and then blaqk has 2 points captured. So that all. We actually have proper VP colors. I can't thank Harley enough for actually getting that one coder to actually sit down and fix it. If I remember the coder's name, I would totally thank him too. I guess I probably should save my thanks though until we verify they actually fixed it. But anyway, so now we talked about, okay, this Bright Lance is a bit of a mistake because the Bright Lance, well, acceptable AV, right? We've established that. There's no pertinent vehicle threat out here right now, right? Like, this Sentinel is vulnerable to other forms of damage. Like, just, for example, Warp Spiders would be more than capable of dealing with the Sentinel. Much better, actually, at dealing with it than with this Bright Line Spear, right? So we've established that. So given that, maybe, this fast AV is not very much so needed. So let's go ahead and look at the second part of this now, which is that GiDDoLo was apparently unaware of exactly where blaqk was and all this, right? So how could GiDDoLo have been more aware of where blaqk was in this whole tech process, right? So let's go ahead, and this is why I stopped it. I didn't want to spend like too long on this, but blaqk has spent 20 power on a power sword. He spent 20 power on flamers. He spent 30 power on a heavy weapon squad, and 40 power on Catachin Devils. So when we add all that up, that's 70 power, 90 power, 110 power expenditure for blaqk. Now we go ahead and we look at GiDDoLo, and we look at his tier 1 expenditures, right? He actually didn't get battle equipment in tier 1. I don't remember his Howling Banshees ever having aspect of the Banshees, so he didn't get those either. The only things that he got in tier 1 were the Shuriken Cannon weapon platform team, and this improved targeters. So he got...
My bad, which I was going to say isn't very much power in all, which is why he teched up so quickly.
Yeah, he spent 60 power in tier 1 versus blaqk's 110, so there's a 50 power gap before we even get into the fact that GiDDoLo basically throughout tier 1 had superior power income, and still has superior power income. So there's no way blaqk could have gotten to tier 2 quicker than GiDDoLo, and then pumped out a vehicle quicker than GiDDoLo could have pumped something else out, while having a good economy at the same time, right? Like, because he would have also, we're talking about actually being able to afford stuff in tier 2, not just getting a tier 2. So this is all kind of, these are mistakes here by GiDDoLo where these are resources that could have been better spent. He really could have benefited from choosing a unit that was not this Bright Lance, because now all of a sudden, blaqk is going to see this Bright Lance and just go, haha, you built this unit that I'm going to just make useless by not building anything that it can kill.
Indeed. that is a problem with trying to, because a lot of players will try to preemptively figure out what their opponent is trying to do, and bringing out a vehicle counter right before a vehicle pops out is wonderful if you can keep it hidden long enough. But if blaqk notices this Bright Lance, he's not going to bring out a vehicle. He's going to be smarter than that and get more anti-infantry counters, which the Bright Lance, or more infantry that will counter infantry. Now, Bright Lance won't help in all. It'll just be a resource drain. It will be costing upkeep. And chances are it's going to be stationary and not really be actively capping anything.
Yeah, and by the way, all this after losing the Banshee squad. So already GiDDoLo's forces are weakened, and then he basically just weakens them further by wasting 300 requisition on a unit that is not going to help his force composition. So I don't want to pause too long on this. You ready to get going again?
I'm ready to get going.
All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we see GiDDoLo just setting up the Bright Lance to cover his generator. I assume he's expecting a Chimera with a Guardsman squad, especially since he noticed that Flamer Guardsman squad to rush his generators. And yes, that would be the perfect counter for it. Except there's no Chimera. Blaqk isn't even tier 2. I feel like this Bright Lance needs to go capping. He could be capping the second requisition point onto the right near the VP race up on that platform. That would be a perfect area for a unit that can't really be used very well at this point in time to cap that point.
So I just want to point out something real quickly because I had something in chat. There is the Lord Commissar does not have a Bane. The Commissar Lord does not have a Bane Wolf. The Bane Wolf is exclusive to. Oh my gosh! Wow, the Sentinel is really eating it here from these Guardians behind the shield with the grenade right on it. blaqk is actually successfully going to get this out, though. Just watch this. Just runs away. Just runs away. And now these Guardians are prevented from chasing it because their own shield makes it a pain to chase it a little bit here. Anyway, what I was saying, though, the Bane Wolf is exclusive to the Exquisitor. It's a global call-in for her that the Commissar Lord does not have access to. As far as the Right Lance's range, I think it is a little bit bigger than the Shurikens, but
it has a wider arc, and I think it's a little bit longer too.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything that the Shuriken does, though. So
yeah, I do like how blaqk is just making a point to decap GiDDoLo's natural requisition, while blaqk is held onto his, I believe, almost all of the entire game.
It's still mature, yeah, so.
It's still plus 30. GiDDoLo, that Guardian squad has had plenty of times to go down there and then just go back up to his shield. Black's not even that much concerned about the victory point. Plus, you have the, 10, 15 seconds or whatever it takes to decap a point in order to get the Guardian squad back in. And Eldar are a very mobile race. They have fleet of foot. And,
yeah. And by the way, here come those Flamer Guardsmen, and this Right Lance is doing diddly squat here. We see that what's doing much more is this Falcon, which
could have come out a lot earlier.
Exactly. The Falcon is a soft vehicle counter. It would easily deal with a Chimera. There's no reason that this Falcon could not have been brought out earlier. Instead of this Right Lance, just an absolutely huge mistake by GiDDoLo to have made his build order this way.
Oh, and the Warp Sweater Exarch goes down to the Commissar Lord. Good call to save the shield to give chase for the Warp Sweater Exarch. And a nice nade by GiDDoLo, taking out a bunch of catechins on retreat. Especially with the vehicle blocking their pathing. That was brilliant.
And by the way, we see that heavy weapon squad for blaqk is already a last cannon heavy weapon squad, already prepared to deal with this Falcon. We see the Sentinel is already a missile Sentinel, again, in crack mode. By being aggressive there, we saw that effectively blaqk was able to scout what his opponent got out the second that he got it out, and in doing that was able to prepare the proper counters to go ahead and deal with it immediately. But again, though, had that Falcon gotten out earlier, blaqk would have just been getting a tier T. It would have been hard-pressed to field all of those counters at once.
And, possibly even gotten a complete gen bash off if he knocked over the walls.
Yeah, and so we do see that GiDDoLo revised his Warp Spider Exarch here, but he took two big losses there. He lost his Warp Spider Exarch, which he just paid at least 250 requisition for, and he lost his Falcon.
Yeah, and, even with the proper vehicle counters out, a vehicle can be very useful to harass a certain location. Because let's think about this for a second. That heavy weapon squad is stationary. It's going to take some time to respond. You can easily send your vehicle out to another location with a squad in it or whatnot and just harass certain locations. But now that it's not there, he doesn't have that ability.
And we see this Right Lance is doing so much to the catechins.
I like how GiDDoLo is force meleeing with the guardsmen. The Guardian squad are upgraded with the Warlock, and that adds a lot of melee damage.
Very nice usage of Flare here. This Flare is going to prevent the Shuriken from being effective because it reduces its range. You saw how drastically the range reduction there was, and that allowed the catechins to actually remain outside of the range of the Shuriken there, and that allowed the Commissar Lord to end up closing. Actually, it's a little bit of a micro mistake in terms of GiDDoLo moving that forward at all, but nonetheless.
I think he might have thought it was a Manticore strike. I don't know.
But even then, it wouldn't have been out of range of a Manticore strike either. So
yeah, that's true. But yeah, just to finish up that thought, if you have a Guardian squad with the Warlock, go ahead and engage Guardsmen in melee. The Guardians will probably win the battle. The Warlock is an excellent melee combatant against other ranged troops, and Guardsmen just don't have much melee damage at all anyway. And also, now that blaqk saw that Bright Lance, like I said, he's not going to get out any vehicles. He's getting out an Ogren squad, which is just exactly what he needs to field against this army, basically, this force composition of GiDDoLo.
Yeah, now in the meantime, GiDDoLo, if we look at his resources, we've got a sort of odd thing of, the Autarch, that's why we got the Autarch coming in. He's just waiting for the call, and oh my gosh, decimation of that last cannon squad. Oh, that's a very nice Autarch call in which, nonetheless, they're very nice, but a nice missile sentinel usage here. These Guardians getting pretty well brutalized there. This Autarch, though, not being microed after she's called in. we're gonna have to see a little bit of work on that by GiDDoLo. Now we have to see blaqk actually losing that last cannon heavy weapon squad is gonna have to build another guardsman because he has no way to repair a sentinel otherwise.
And also, yet again, this would be a nice time to bring this Guardian squad into play and backcap that natural requisition. Honestly, this requisition point is really helping blaqk stay into this battle, even with all these losses he's taking.
Yeah, that, and even the one on the far right side too has been basically untouched, even though we've seen huge presence over there by GiDDoLo. And we're going to see these catechins, they take out the shuriken platform. Oh, GiDDoLo, what are you doing moving that shuriken so close to those catechins?
Yeah, and, like, retreating sooner would have helped a lot, definitely. Losing a shuriken this late, a lot of players, you know, sometimes they think that tier 1.5 units just aren't really useful in the late game, but especially on this map, there are very many places you can funnel the enemy into, especially if you're like edged and you're a genius at placing shields next to walls so people have to funnel right into them. A shuriken would have been very useful if you use guardian shields that way.
Now I just wanted to comment on over here the right side. We have the Autarch is indeed finally going ahead and capturing that requisition node. So you know, we don't want to bash on GiDDoLo constantly here. You know, when he does good things, we'll point him out. And that was a good thing he did there. So, by the way, I also want to point out here, blaqk is fully upgrading this guardsman squad, but he prioritized getting the Commissar upgrade first. The significance of that is that basically, even though the Commissar upgrade costs more, it gives him the ability to, okay, I should say it gives him the ability, period, the only ability the guardsmen get other than repair, which is to retreat and then break the retreat with the summary execution, I believe is what it's called. But anyway, so it gives you that ability, and then also Commissar adds like 14 or 15 damage per second to the squad. Sergeant only really adds health. Now the Sergeant does, I believe, add more health than the Commissar does. But nonetheless, though, when you upgrade Commissar first, you get a lot more damage, and usually damage tends to be a little more useful.
Yeah, and not to mention the extra models that just come from having the leaders in the first place.
Yeah, well, you would get that with either, but that's why I'm saying, like, that was specifically commenting, like, on his order of it, like, of going for that Commissar first, that he could push into the middle and do some damage, and then the Sergeant would come, and then he would get the health, you know, boost from that, too, get the benefits of both eventually, but prioritizing the specific benefits of the Commissar.
Looks like this Commissar Lord is actually stuck, his hero. That's hilarious. Oh, there it goes. He's back in action.
Well, you rarely ever see combat up here, by the way.
I did not know that was a building. Oh my gosh. There's a building back there. Is there one on the other VP, too? No. That is interesting. I had no idea there was a building back there. Apologies. I did not mean to, like, nerd out there for a minute.
That is totally fine. When you discover new things about a map, and I mean, I haven't seen too many players use this map in this way before that GiDDoLo's using it.
There's two buildings there. There's a building right next to that. There's three buildings.
There's three buildings. And there's a grenade by those catechins, and that will take out, actually, not nearly as many as I'd expected there. They've been spaced pretty well there. And meanwhile, the Warp Spider Exarch goes down. So again, GiDDoLo losing that Warp Spider Exarch, taking another significant loss. He's replacing that shuriken cannon platform, by the way. Oh my gosh, that booby trap just decimates that Guardian squad. Had they not had a Warlock there, the entire squad would have been decimated by a single booby trap. We do not see any Rangers. We don't see detectors out for GiDDoLo here. Those booby traps are going to just ravage him silly. I can't say anything else here that, that Pat will not be happy about.
I like these Ogren squad. blaqk saw that the Warlock was trying to get away and probably retreat, so he's trying to cut off the retreat path, but it looks like GiDDoLo noticed that. And he's going back to try to finish off that cap. But the Ogrens will probably be in a position to cut them off on retreat yet again by that time. And the Wraith Lord is finally out for GiDDoLo. Again, a little bit later than I would have liked to see, because now blaqk has two Ogren squads. He's in a pretty decent position to still keep a little bit of map control. And beautiful flare yet again on the Shuriken. Allowing the Ogrens getting close and just deal their damage. Now this Warlock's...
Stomp comes in. He may actually be able to finish this off because of that Stomp. If he gets a good attack round... No, he's not going to get the attack round. Will he maybe get the range damage down to 767? No. If Black had been able, the trifecta there would have been to just get the proper attack round there on that. But by the way, you mentioned the Gen Bash here with this Wraith Lord. Yeah, exactly. GiDDoLo has come in here. He's broken down these walls with the Wraith Lord, which is a vehicle that has a crush level high enough to do this. And now this Bright Lance finally, maybe will possibly pay for itself by taking out these generators. Although, yeah, did it get the node? Yeah, I think it got the node. So yeah, I guess the Bright Lance has finally paid for itself. But there is this thing called time, and that does matter.
And it looks like this Wraith Lord will be just chased out and finished off by these Ogryns. Yeah, really, Black is just in a perfect position to counter anything GiDDoLo can throw at him at this point in time.
Very nice usage of Bionic Eye there as well, which is the execute. It's a war gear for the Commissar Lord, and when you execute, it forces makes your units go faster as well as doing more damage and everything. So we see that basically the Bright Lance is gone, the Wraith Lord is gone,
the Autarch is gone.
The Autarch is gone too. Oh my gosh.
Just destroyed on retreat by the Catechins. The Warp Starter Exarch is still lying there unconscious next to the crates of ammo. And finally, we see this Guardian squad being brought out to capture the natural requisition of Black, and Black is just waiting with his full forces
yeah, he's just going to come out and deal with this. No problem whatsoever here. We see that these Guardians are just running away. They don't even have enough energy to grenade. They must have just tossed down that energy shield, I believe. So they're in a bad position here. They let the at least toss grenade.
GiDDoLo knocked down his own wall with the Wraith Lord, it looks like. So now Black has also the ability to Gen Bash whenever he chooses. And it looks like he's just going to capture the power node.
GiDDoLo, come on, man.
Which is another thing with knocking down the walls allow you to do. Because if you look at your base in relation to your first power node, you have to go around to get down the ramp. Now, the enemy player doesn't have to do that. He can just set up a suppression platform covering both the ramps if he knocks down the wall and just capture your power node. So, yeah, Black is looks like that's what Black is going to try to do without the suppression platform to cover it.
Yeah, he gets the decap off here, so he basically negates the entire bastion of his own generator farm, and the Bright Lance, in the long run, has been proved to be completely ineffective against anything in this game. Just a horrible.
It does good against
decision.
Generators, apparently, though. That's
yeah, I mean, it worked really well against the Generators. The problem was he only got to use it once against the Generators, and that one time he got to use it against the Generators, he ended up losing the rest of his army and the Bright Lance and his own Generators too.
Yeah, there's definitely a point. I would never say Gen Bashing is useless. It's always useful, but there's definitely a point in the game, especially in long games, that it's more efficient just to go after requisition, because most of the reinforcement costs are coming from requisition. And with high upkeep and whatnot, that's affecting requisition more so than power. You can really... Bleeding an enemy of requisition late game is more effective than bleeding them of power, because they're always going to have a stockpile of power towards the middle of the game.
So we do see that GiDDoLo was saving up for an avatar here, and that's why he had let his Warp Spider Exarch just sit idle, sit dead for so long. He finally revives him. Now the avatar is almost complete, and he's got some resources to do it. Yeah, there is a bug where you can execute the avatar. I don't think we're going to see Black do it. I don't think he's that much of a... I think he is a much better player. A very nice use of Flare. Yeah, you can execute that. Like, basically, there is...
An enemy's avatar.
Yeah, well, it lets you one-shot anything.
No way. That is awesome.
I'm not going to clarify how to do it, but it's something I'm sure that Relic is working on ninja fixing. But anyway, so we do see we have this avatar out now. Black is finally going tier 3. So GiDDoLo basically, at this point in the game, he's like lost all these encounters, and he's going to have to rely now on this avatar to basically save his ass.
And Black giving a little LOL at the avatar.
Yeah, he does have double Ogryns, and I'm not, as an Orc player, I'm much more experienced with the knob side of these things. But I would assume that double Ogryns against an avatar, if you micro them well, should be, especially with
the Commissar Lord being able to buff well.
Like his loyal to the end global, his Bionic Eye and all that
Inspired
kind of stuff.
Determination from the Bionic Eye, yeah. And just the accessory increases health regeneration of units around him too. So yeah.
And not to mention he's also getting the Fist of Brokus. My ladies and gentlemen, this single war gear is absolutely ridiculous against something like an Avatar or any kind of super unit at all, because it just massively buffs your forces. So you see that blaqk apparently hasn't fought an Avatar before.
Can you clarify on the ability of the Power Fist? Cause
oh, sure. So the Fist of Brooks ability, as we can see, it's a quote legendary power fist that is effective against all units. The ability is like none shall fall. It basically buffs all, like the more, I think it's like the more units around them, the more everything is buffed, and it like buffs the damage and stuff on the units. I'd have to double check the exact benefits and stuff. I haven't used it too much myself, but I do know that it is one of those. It's kind of like his loyal to the N1, where it is. It just, the more units you have around you, it just does better or something like that. More units you lose. Oh, my bad. Okay, so Aaron said use it on your own units, and if an enemy unit gets caught in the way, oh, derp. Didn't mean to say that. That was not what I meant. Aaron, I thought you were
is it just me, or did that Imperial Guard stronghold have a machine gun attached to it that was firing?
Yeah, it does. Actually, Imperial Guard gets a little bit of a benefit there.
Interesting. I never noticed that. Yet another thing to learn.
Yeah. By the way, though, these Ogryn squad on the left side is kind of idle. blaqk has to work on that. But if we watch there, that Avatar was forced off by just Catachan Devils and the Commissar Lord's Fist of Brokus.
One thing to deal with idle units that I feel like this is something obvious, but not necessarily so. That if you're trying to kite with units, do a shift click, then quickly switch to your idle units, give them a few commands, and then switch back to your kiting unit, and then do more precise kiting control. It's just a really quick thing you can do to reduce your idling time.
Yeah, now we do see that the blaqk's in a little bit of just kind of loses his Commissar Lord here, and he's gonna have to go ahead and get him up if he can. We do see a Shuriken weapon cannon platform team coming out again from GiDDoLo. He keeps losing these things. He's gotta keep one of them alive at this point, because he needs them to control the Ogryns.
This is also a mistake on, if you don't mind, on me. But again, another mistake on GiDDoLo's part. He could have used his Warp Sweater Exarch right there to teleport up and capture one of the other VPs, which would have stopped the drain against him. But now blaqk is just going to capture the victory point that GiDDoLo just got with his Ogryn squad. And GiDDoLo's only response is to capture another victory point, and even then there's still going to be a drain on his victory points, to the point where it's too late for him to capture anything. And I feel like that's exactly what's going to happen now with only 27 VPs left on his side.
Yeah, we see this Avatar going up to the top right to... Oh, okay, he's got his Warp Sweater Exarch up there now. Alright, never mind. But, yeah, I was going to say the Avatar is not going to capture anything. And again, excellent flare usage here. That's going to force off this Shuriken Cannon weapon platform team. And these Ogryns, because of that, are just going to be rampagingly effective.
And looks like it will be GG.
Indeed,
one thing I did notice is both players, at least towards the middle and towards the end, both players were idling quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's acceptable in a long, drawn-out game like this. You just lose control. You lose focus unless you're used to playing very long Dawn of War 2 games. And it's something that happens to everyone, including myself, and I assume you. And it's just something that players will have to get used to get... basically just don't idle your units. Every unit has something they can be doing, and Umpire, for those who don't know, was one of the better Eldar players of a way long ago patch when Eldar were once considered the weakest race. He would always say, every unit can be doing something. Every few seconds that you leave a unit idled is a few seconds you could have capped something and changed the course of the game. So just keep that in mind every time you're having a unit just sit around.
Yeah, like, we've talked about this before, but, like, idle units in Dawn of War 2 are literally idle SCVs in StarCraft.
Yeah, simply because the points are out on the field of battle and your fighting units can be used to influence your economy, your income and such. I guess we're doing question session now, unless we have another replay.
Nah, we don't have another replay, especially not one that would be so relatively short. We only have about 15 minutes, so yeah, we are taking questions.
So pop them up in chat, and we'll answer them.
What is this? SCVs can totally kill stuff. Come on, have you not seen? Oh man, all the issues that SCVs cause in the StarCraft 2 beta. I mean,
is this an RTS? Yes.
Yeah.
It sort of is. In fact,
it is completely.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, yeah, there's no base building per se. You do build power. Hey, there's some. But, there's no traditional base building, I guess is the better way to put it. But the macro components that, you typically look for in base building, right? Like the purposes of having base building are more or less streamlined into the game. It's when I say streamlined, part of the intent of the streamlining is literally that you don't expend half your APM, your actions per minute, on macro tasks. That you are spending almost all of your APM on micro. That is like one of the intents of the game.
And yeah, it also forces you to think, really, should this unit be fighting or should he be capping or whatnot? It really dramatically changes the way you play the game, honestly, I feel like.
Yeah, so I think with that, actually, we'll give our viewers some time to come up with some questions. We'll go to a quick commercial break and come back, see if they've got a little more stuff to ask us here.
All right.
All right, we are back. So, Dobrev, tell me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. But anyway, he asks, is there any way to foresee an opponent's build?
Um, I mean, you can't really see what he's building. It's not like, there's various tech buildings that can give away what his tech is. You just have to be aware of what he currently has on the field. Try to anticipate what he's going to do. It really comes down to knowing the map and the matchup extremely well to be able to predict what he's going to be going. A lot of players will play reactionary based on what they see on the field, and that can lead to some interesting games.
Yeah, now I do want to say actually, because well, there is kind of things are much murkier, right? Like you can't ever be totally certain. You can't like orbital. Have a my bad. You can't have like your comsat sweep, right? You can't go ahead and comsat sweep and go, oh, I just scanned a starport, two starports like really early in the game. He's probably going 2-port Wraith. You don't have quite that kind of scouting. You don't have a lot of your initial scouting either. You have in a game like StarCraft, but what you do have is again you can look at what's on the field. You can pay close attention to your opponent's generators. That's probably one of the absolute best things you can do early in the game. Is that if you pay attention to their generators, how many generators they're getting, when they're getting them, you can typically figure out where they're at as far as their requisition and power balance. If they're if they're getting a lot of generators, it usually means that they're looking to tech up very quickly. If they're getting maybe 1 or 2 generators very quickly, it usually means that they're looking for tier 1.5 units. Tier 1.5 units are tier 1 units that cost power. But if there's no generators, then you're typically looking at some high value requisition tier 1 units like tax. For example, if you go up against a Space Marine, you notice that he hasn't built any generators at all in the game, right? Then and you already see one tactical Space Marine squad. You can typically expect the next squad that's coming out, it's going to be another tactical Space Marine squad. On the other hand, let's say that you see a power node is built on, so there's a fortified power node, right? And then there's a generator. Usually you can, that's like not a ton of power income, right? It's like just just enough, right? Because he wants both a lot of requisition and a little bit of power. And usually Space Marine players that do that are then looking for Assault Space Marines who cost 500 requisition and 50 power. So that's one of the ways you can look for things too. Also, again, just kind of like looking at what your opponent has bought. Like again, that goes back into what Lokgar said. So I think if I keep going on with that.
So one thing to note in this game, a lot of the units are just soft counters and not traditional hard counters. I feel like the only really traditional hard counter mechanic would be ranged anti-vehicle versus vehicles. in that most ranged anti-vehicle completely suck against infantry, but a lot of units can do well against a lot of different units. Some units do things better than other units, obviously, but it's really a game of a lot of soft counters and being able to use the units you chose wisely. Even that Bright Lance, even though it didn't have anything to hard cover, if he kept it actively going around the field and was able to, decap something here and there, it might have been worth its cost, and might not have caused him to lose resources and whatnot.
Yeah, so the one other way you can scout too is just like the traditional way of scouting. By the way, is literally having units close to your opponent's base, so you can see when stuff comes out and what it is that's coming out. Like now, you can't obviously. This is such a game where like every single unit you have is valuable. You can't spare a unit to do that constantly. But like we saw in this game with blaqk, right? He was pushing up to his opponent's generator farm right as his opponent's falcon came out. So by being aggressive a lot of times and pushing certain areas, a lot of times you can, number one, force your opponent to show their hand, and then number two, you can see things like much sooner than you would otherwise be able to. So in seeing that falcon there, right, we saw that in this game, because he pushed up so far, he scouted the falcon very early, and even though the falcon was already on the battlefield, right, he couldn't scout the falcon coming out, right? He couldn't scout the teleporter creating the falcon, right? He couldn't scout that it was being made from the base structure. And nothing else that he would look at on the field of battle would tell him at that point in time that a falcon was coming out. But once the falcon was out, once he saw the falcon, because he saw the falcon so deeply in enemy territory, he was able to just get his forward units out, and then his units that were not committed forward, which just so happened to be the units that he needed to counter it anyway, he was able to keep them on the field, upgrade them to the upgrades that he needed to, and to go ahead and deal with it.
Yeah, let's see, what is the best way to negate? Sorry, I'm typing to blaqk too. He's being very distracting. Everyone should tell him to stop.
blaqk.
Did we just answer Lemon Ryan's question?
We answered, Lemon Ryan. We answered Dubrev's. Lemon Ryan's is, what is the best way to negate an Eldar heavily reliant on energy shields?
Grenades behind the shields, vehicles to crush the shields, or sort of grenade launchers. The Heretics grenade launchers. I think the Barbed Strangler can work. I think you might actually have to attack ground behind the shields, because the shields will actually shot block, but not too sure on that. But basically crush them, get rid of them with explosives and whatnot, and you should be golden.
And if your orcs, just go cry in a corner.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, you really, as orcs, have no great way of dealing with them. Like, you have Storm Boys, but I've seen some players use Storm Boys pretty successfully in the matchup, but never overly so, because they just... the issue with Storm Boys is that typically against Eldar, you're trying to fast attack the tier 2, because there's... Even with Storm Boys, it's almost impossible to really deal with Rangers. And, you tend to be looking for the ability to get to tier 2, get a war truck out, and then be able to deal with Rangers that way. Especially if you're a commando knob, that you can pull in commandos and stuff to your... But straight up, like, countering with Storm Boys tends to be bad, because they tend to bleed, and they're like 40 requisition and 4 power per model to replace, which tends to be really expensive, tends to prevent teching, blah 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 blah. Anyway, so long story short, what would be your go-to, like, just jump over the shield, right, tends to end up like not actually being what you should really do. So it ends up being like, okay, get to tier 2, just like do what you can, go where the shields aren't. If you push the shields as they're going up, you can actually destroy them really quickly, because like when they're being built, if they take like just like a feather just hits them or anything, they'll go like boom, just instantly destroyed. But if you just kind of like either A, don't let them get them up, B, just get to tier 2, and you have so many things that can crush them there, and just negate them.
Yeah. You're gonna have to read out questions to me. I'm sort of tabbed in.
Okay.
I'm just trying to search for a 1v1 because it takes me forever to find one.
Alright. So, the way victory can be achieved is hold victory points until your opponent has none left, or destroy their base. I know it's not a question, I just kind of wanted to address it. Like, it is a game of victory points. That is indeed what the little thing on the loading screen says now. I like that they added that in, by the way. Because my one friend was always like, no, man, Annihilate is the only way to play the game. And I'm like, no, Annihilate is terrible. You should never play Annihilate.
No,
Honestly,
no. Annihilate is sort of fun if you want to play super units only, or heroes
base
only, or silly games like that, I guess.
yeah, basically, it's not, the game is not balanced or designed or anything for Annihilate. Like, but victory points basically get the job done. The point of victory points is, you know, if you're winning in terms of map control, you know, if your strategy is winning, if your force composition is winning, typically you'll be ahead in victory points. Generally, like, if your force composition is better, most of the time, you know, there is no reason other than a very, very effective harass from your opponent that you shouldn't be able to hold victory points better, more easily, and to bleed your opponent of victory points during that time while you're ahead. So the ultimate point of victory points is kind of like this game state counter, right? Where it's like, okay, you know, at this point you're ahead, so you're bleeding your opponent of the game state, like you're getting your opponent's losing game state points, but then now your opponent just moved into the lead, so now you're losing game state points, and eventually the battle will come to an end, and you know, you have to have like this, okay, what is the total evaluation of the whole game state, and that's kind of what it does. I know that's a little heady and stuff, but long story short, though, the battle is, you know, games are not really decided directly over victory points. It tends to be more that victory point control will follow from other things, which are very, very, very combat oriented. There are also some strategic harass oriented things as well that you'll see, but typically it's combat oriented is what's going to influence victory points. And actually, I'd probably say like 75% of victory point games at least would be decided the same way as Annihilate. Well, maybe not exactly the same way, because you have the whole super unit thing come in, and all sorts of mechanics just break down, and all of a sudden, like, players can get back into it. But if in a reasonable game, like, if you took like Annihilate and made it a more reasonable game mode, I suppose, I'd probably say that at least 75% of victory point games would be decided like the same way, right? Like, the player that would win would be destroying the other player's base, more or less. If you get where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much gonna go ahead and agree with all of your points there. Quick update on my game search. Games found 1, possible matches 1, found 1 of 2 players.
Woo woo.
It's gonna say that for a little bit of time, I feel like.
So
I am trying to learn Space Marine, so this should be interesting.
And I guess for the last 3 minutes, if our stream viewers want to watch, I'm going to go ahead and work on my iCup painter schemes here.
Or I have an even better idea. Let's have a friendly 1v1 match.
But we have 3 minutes, and I really need to eat out. I have to go at 7, actually, for once.
I see. Wow. Usually that's me. Interesting.
Yeah, it actually is usually, except for last time you just kind of disappeared, but then you were still around, and I was so confused.
Yeah, I'm not. I thought I had to go, but looks like I didn't.
Ah, well then. Well, that would have come out much better had I not just like lost my voice there for a second. Yay! So let's see, things going on. You can see a little Game Replays logo here that I'm replacing with the iCup logo as I make my other color scheme. But on Game Replays this weekend, there's going to be a custom map tournament. There's going to be like 7 games played. It's going to be some really, really awesome stuff with custom maps in Dawn of War 2. So there's going to be, I believe, cash prize pool for the players participating in it. I don't know if I don't think it's been announced yet. I mean, it may have been announced since between when I started the broadcast and now, but actually, let me go see. blaqk, have you sent me anything? I don't believe so. I'll let blaqk do the full announcement for you guys on who exactly is participating, when it is, and everything. We'll get you guys the full details tomorrow, because I hope it'll be announced by tomorrow. And but yeah, so just look for that this weekend on Game Replays. There's going to be a custom map showcase event thingy. 7 matches played. 2 really, 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 really good players are going to participate in it. I should actually probably say that one of them we saw today. Yeah, if you guys, I don't know if you guys are going to figure out who it was that we saw today, but well, you will once the announcement goes out. But anyway, so just a little teaser there. And of course, the Game Replays Open Season Tournament B signups open up tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time on GameReplays.org. Man, Game Replays is doing a lot of stuff. But we will actually be, well, I won't be doing casting for IC Cup for that event. Lokgar will be with an unannounced partner. But we are planning an IC Cup stream for that. But anyway, the signups open up tomorrow at 12 Eastern Standard Time on GameReplays.org. So if you're interested in that, be sure to go ahead and sign up. Even if you're not, be sure to stay tuned because it's a week from Friday, so April 8th through 10th. All that weekend, we're going to have, well, it's going to be there. So the IC Cup stream should be up and stuff, so it should be awesome. Lots of really high-level DAO2, live, tournament, awesomeness just like this last weekend.
Oh, man, update on the search. I accidentally hit cancel search to Alt-Tab, and I just realized that that's a prime time to be searching, considering how long it takes me to find a game. Darn.
Darn-gee darn. Man, I can't talk today. What is this? I don't even...
I can't talk, I can just laugh. Anyway, I believe it is now 7 o'clock.
Yeah, so I believe that we are pretty much done. I think my color scheme is looking kind of garish, maybe kind of decent though still.
Oh yeah, my beautiful IC Cup. I'm not even gonna say it's beautiful. Just ignore that. It's a color scheme with a badge of IC Cup. That's it.
It's functional, yo. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as I can see my stronghold when I'm destroying them, or they're destroying me.
When does that happen? Never.
Never. Anyway, I think that's it for the show.
Yeah, alright, so thank you everyone for coming out, thank you for showing up, thank you for watching. We will see you tomorrow at the same time, same place, and also Friday, we should see you this Friday. We will not see you the Friday after this Friday though, because we're going to be covering the, well, I will be covering the Game Replays Open Season Tournament B, just not with IC Cup. But anyway, I'm 5-star General.
I'm Lord Lokgar, and I guess that's the show.
Yeah, thanks guys.